Sometimes I wonder how different my life would be if I didn't move to Australia when I was 11. So I was born in Malaysia and I grew up there until the age of 11 when my family decided to move to Brisbane, Australia. And I feel like that experience has really shaped me as a person because I remember just the first few days and months of school, it was really a jarring experience because school in Australia and school in Malaysia is really different. And as a immigrant kid, you had a supportive class called ESL, which is English as Second Language. And basically it's just like an extra class you're basically put into if you're an immigrant. And they would help you with communication and English, and mostly just how to say certain words and pronounce it properly, and all that kind of support. And I was lucky because in Malaysia we learned multiple languages and English was one of them. So it wasn't like I moved to Australia not knowing English at all. Like at least I knew how to communicate. But it was really different because English in Australia is proper, like you say things properly in grammatically correct. But in Malaysia, we usually mix languages. So when I'm speaking English, I would usually mix with a bit of Mandarin or Cantonese or whatever, like different languages. We'll just mix it together. And so it was quite a bit of a challenge trying to switch modes. So that's why the English as second language class was there to help people like us. And I guess the whole experience there was that I became a bit more reserved because I had to think about what I want to say before I say it. Whereas back home, back in Malaysia, I grew up in that environment, so I was everything was very natural. When I expressed myself, it was very unfiltered. I would just say whatever I want to say, and I had a good friend group, and I just had a great social life, and I wasn't really that shy. But once I moved here, because I didn't feel like I fit in, I feel like I was kind of the outsider, and it was hard. It was hard to express myself to all the other students there because I didn't know certain words in English or in proper English. I didn't know how to say things, and therefore I just started to not say things. I just started to become more quiet, more reserved, more introverted, and just not saying things when I don't need to, even if I kind of felt like I did have something to contribute. And I think that whole thing has really been a bit of a trend just for the rest of my kind of teenage years and whatnot. And so, thinking back, I mean, I'm glad I realized that because in the past few years, I realized I have slowly tried to break out of that kind of mentality where I just have been practicing being a bit more conscious about not filtering so much and overthinking what I want to say before I say it. Because at a certain point, I just feel like I'm editing myself too much and not really expressing what I want to express when the words come out because all the real thought have been filtered. And I think that's the kind of biggest realization I have from this whole story that I'm telling you. And I guess despite of all the challenges that I have mentioned, I do think it is a privilege to understand two cultures and have grown up with two different cultures. Because, look, it does contribute to the identity crisis. I think any sort of immigrant or immigrant kid would understand what I'm talking about. The feeling that you don't belong anywhere fully. It's like I'm not really Malaysian enough for Malaysia, and I'm not Australian enough for Australia. And so it's this constant kind of question of who am I, and where do I belong, and yeah, so it can get a bit challenging sometimes, but I think at the end of the day, like, I'm not neither. I am both. And that's great. Like, that is such a privilege to have lived through that. And so I am very grateful for it, because it allowed me to understand different perspectives quite clearly, and I think it really shaped me in terms of how I think about things and how I just approach doing things, or how I'm curious about learning about people as well. Because yeah, to me, like, everyone has just really interesting and different experience, and if they're from different cultures, I would be intrigued to learn how they feel about different things. Because even with languages, right? I feel like if you know different languages, you will think differently in different languages, because there are certain words that you cannot express in one language. So for example, there are certain words in English that you can't express in Mandarin, and vice versa. And so the ability to understand different languages and different cultures just kind of, I feel like it unlocks your brain a bit more. It unlocks this, yeah, like a different way of thinking and different way of processing things. And I just find that really interesting. And so I guess, yeah, what I've learned from kind of navigating through a bit of an identity crisis, and I guess reflecting on how growing up with different cultures has changed me, I just feel like, yes, it is a quite a challenging thing to go through. And I am more conscious about not kind of editing myself too much when I'm interacting with people, and not trying to like fit in too much, and embracing the fact that yes, I might be a bit different. Like, sometimes you might just, yeah, not fully belong anywhere, but that's okay, because you have the ability to exist in both worlds, and that is a privilege in itself. And so, yeah, I think the moral of the story is just to kind of embrace your differences and just go with it. You know, you don't have to pick one or the other. You are both, and that's great. And so this is day 11 of me, no, day 12 of me talking to a camera.